When we talk about cudgeling, basing on the Highland Broadsword, using it for self-defense in historical context, this means you can use just a simple plain stick, or you can use a variety of walking sticks, different walking sticks. So, for example, you can use a classical walking stick, like a 19th, early 20th century gentleman. Of course, this is for training. This has a rubber knob, not a metal or silver knob. So the typical Basket-Hilt Malacca cane, you can use this. Of course, a typical walking stick with a crooked handle is also possible. Of course, you have to keep in mind that then you don't have a knob on the top, which is giving you more impact with the blow. Also, a nice feature of a walking stick is always a pointy tip. So a metal tip, which you can use for a solid thrust, for example, into the face. This crook handle, we don't use it for any hooking of the legs or something like that, but of course you can do that with it, and we see it in some historical manuals of, for example, Barton Wright's Patron. We can see this, but in example, A.C. Cunningham, who was an instructor for bayonet and saber, he has his walking stick defense manual, and he has it in this classical saber grip. So the handle is for him is a handle, and he uses all of the stick like a saber. What you can also use is what De Beringer is describing. He says you should have a stick which has kind of a slight edge shape. So he refers to the spadroon, and therefore he also holds the stick on the end of the handle, so like a sword grip, and the blade, the wooden blade, so to speak, is tapering towards the point. So he says if you have a stick which is not just round, but has a slightly edge shape and a grip shape, then you can use it more similar to your spadroon, to your sword. And then, of course, what we prefer is a solid stick with a root knob handle. So this not only supports you when walking, it's also a very natural mace-like stick you have then. So this one is from Ireland. It is not a very good shillelagh, the famous Irish blackswan stick, because it has a quite light and narrow root knob, which is not too solid, so you can use it quite safely for training purposes. For a real cudgel or real walking stick with a root knob, you want to have something more solid. So with this you can really cause some damage without using too big motions. You can just use quick motions from your wrist, like with a sword. So speaking of techniques, quickly, we have in the channel of Chris Thompson, we have some training videos about how to use the cudgel in the MacGregor Method. But for a quick overview, we in the Broadsword Academy Germany, we use 3 types of grips. So the first one is a typical saber or broadsword grip, so with a butt end on the back. This means you can do quite quick, swift motions from the wrist and cutting like with a sword blade. However, you don't have the cutting or hitting power like with the root knob end. Therefore, we change to this kind of grip. You can hold it a little bit more back, like we see it in Patron or other walking stick manuals, or you can hold it a little bit more on half choke, so similar to some Irish stick fighting styles. So from here you can use the root knob and cause some damage. You can do it with your hand thumbs on the grip, thumbs up like saber grip, or you can use a hammer grip. This depends on your taste. Personally, when I use this kind of, when I want to use the quick snapping motions from the wrist with root knob targeting some vital targets, I prefer to use the thumb grip just for better edge alignment. So the third grip is the double-handed grip or bayonet grip or half-sword grip. You can call it what you want. Personally, I like the term bayonet grip. So you have your stick in two hands. You can have one hand, one palm up, one palm down, or you can have both palms down, both palms up. Doesn't make any sense, of course. So you hold it like a bayonet and you use the point to thrust and the butt to hit, the root knob end to hit. Of course, you can do the same in this kind of spear or half-sword grip, and you can do it with the tip, with the point of the stick forward, or also with the root knob forward. Okay, and from here with the two-handed grip, of course, you can do also, like with a two-handed sword, heavy blows. So, for example, from this half-choke grip, you cut and then a heavy blow is coming in. Maybe someone has a longer or harder stick, and then you parry it with a double-handed grip and strike again with this one-handed grip, for example. So you have to change between the grips within a fight. It is also very important to keep in mind that you don't have hand protection. So with the Highland Broadsword, obviously we have a very good hand protection with a Basket-Hilt, and the same is true when you use a single stick, or typical Cudgel with a wicker or leather basket. With a normal walking stick, of course, you don't have any hand protection, so you have to keep that in mind. So what you don't want to have is too static, too wide forward, outside or inside guard. You want to move it around and make your hand no target, no static target. And you can change to a hanging guard, and when you go into a hanging guard, don't keep your hand so much forward, pull it back a little bit. So like what we see in many stick fighting styles, especially also in Barkitsu. And then you can go into a hanging guard. You can stand left foot forward in a hanging guard, you can stand right foot forward in a hanging guard. And then from here you lunge and use all your parries like with a sword. But of course you also can use this kind of movement with the root knob in this half choke grip and using the root knob as your striking point. So you work from the wrist. Of course, when you have the opportunity, you can also change into a full strike because you are quickly back again. For example, you use a quick snap cut to the face, parry and hanging guard, and your opponent is free. You have an opening and then you give a heavy cut and come back into the guard. So this is something you can do. We will show some technical examples and also some sparring. We try to train the drills, we try to train a little bit more in this kind of self-defense situation. But in sparring, you can of course do more like a duel, more like fencing. But if you have the chance from this fencing with sticks, from the stick fencing situation, you can quickly go into a parry, grabbing the stick and go into close quarters. And keep in mind, when you are in close quarters, all the end closing and commanding techniques we have with the broadsword are working with a stick quite well. And also you have some more chance in close quarters to fight safely with a stick because you don't have to take too much care that there's a point in the blade. So you have more chances to go into close quarters and use your wrestling, grappling skills. And of course also use your fists in this kind of pugilism way. I've read a quote in one book, I don't know which book it was, but there was someone quoted who said 1 year of boxing, 1 year of wrestling, and 1 year of stick fighting. I think he was referring to Irish stick fighting. And then he said you have everything you need for self-defense, for fighting. And I think this, we can argue about how long you have to do it, but we can say in stick fighting, my punches and also my wrestling, my backhold wrestling techniques and all the traditional wrestling techniques come into play. Of course, if you want to, you can use some puring kicks, so low kicks to the shin and to the knee. This is also a possibility, and we know that, for example, in the faction fights in Ireland, they use such low line kicks to the shin. And of course, in Bartitsu, the Savate influence of these low kicks they use in French Savate, in French kickboxing, was just used also. So you can do this. So yeah, this was a little quick overview about cudgeling. Adopt your skills from the broadsword on a stick, on a simple walking stick, and then you can start to work more with the advantages and disadvantages of the stick you prefer.